How do you pay your subcontractors without getting burned, baby? Without getting taken advantage of, without getting raked over the coals? There's a process to it. A lot of guys think that they can treat a subcontractor, like it's a life coach. You're going to pay them a huge chunk of money up front, and then you're going to show up and expect them to do the work without any level of accountability from you. And that's not how it works. Not if you want to manage your job, not if you want to make sure that they are successful and you're successful, because fundamentally the buck stops with you. If you're an investor, a flipper, a developer, you're responsible for the ultimate product. A lot of guys commenting on the channel about how flippers have ruined the housing market and real estate developers are destroying the economy, or whatever it is that they're saying. And to a degree, they're right. There is a large amount of shoddy workmanship out there, but that comes down to the integrity of the individual investor, developer, general contractor. And this video is to guide and instruct you. And if you follow the steps in this video, you won't be one of those guys. The first step is to vet the subcontractor. Before you ever sign a contract with them, start a job, before you do anything to initiate the relationship, first and foremost, you have to vet the individual. There's a number of ways to do this, and I talk about that in other videos, but make sure you're working with a reputable contractor. Make sure it's somebody who cares about the quality of their work. And so if you don't vet them out thoroughly, you're doomed from the start. It's not going to be a good situation. And then after you've vetted them out, expectations is critical. A clearly defined scope of work, clear, like crystal, like a 5-year-old can understand it. And it seems obvious, but I work with a lot of guys who are very sophisticated individuals, but are not even drafting detailed, highly detailed scopes of work that outline what the obligations are, what the expectations are, how the subcontractor will get paid. And so it's no wonder that there's issues inside of the relationship. You can't assume. Never assume. Assumption is the enemy. I say to my guys all the time that we need to be very careful about what we believe to be true. What are the expectations? What is the timeline? How are they getting paid? When are they getting paid? That's number 2. Number 3 correlates with that in that you pay them in accordance with the draw schedule that you have with the bank. One of the things that I've done in the past that gets me in trouble is if you don't coordinate the timeline of your draw schedule with how you're paying your subcontractors, they're going to finish their job, they're going to want their money, and rightfully so, if it's done correctly. And you don't have the funds because you didn't schedule it for the funds to be released with your bank. So now you're coming out of pocket to have work done, and it jams up your cash flow. And man, it'll jam you up quick. So make sure you're not only paying them in a timely manner, but paying them in accordance with when you get paid. You don't want a bunch of your cash out there covering projects. Maybe you can get away with it on one, but if you have 5 of them or 10 of them, you're not going to get away with it for very long. The third thing is inspections. Again, the buck stops with you. You have to assume that no one's going to do their job and everything's going to go wrong. And I don't mean that in a pessimistic way, because I'm very optimistic. But assume that the onus is on you to hold people accountable, because ultimately it's you who has to deal with the end result. My inspection checklist for a single family home is over 1,200 inspection questions that a 5th grader can go through and inspect a home with. People are going to say crap in the comments about how 5th graders can't do inspections, but the point is our inspection checklist is incredibly detailed, annoyingly so. It's irritating how detailed it is. But the point of that is so at every phase, before you release that subcontractor of his obligation, you've gone through and you've looked over the quality of the work, you've followed your checklist and your process, and you've inspected the work, you've approved it. If you're a flipper, you understand construction. If you're an investor, you've been around construction long enough to know what is correct and what is incorrect. The next one is lien waivers. Gotta have the lien waivers, baby. Now, every bank should require you to get lien waivers, but not all of them do. I've worked with a couple of lending institutions that had no requirement for lien waivers. And a lien waiver is essentially a contract. It's a contract between you and the subcontractor that says the contractor has been paid and he no longer has the right to come back and place a lien against the property because he's waiving his right to do so. You can do unconditional lien waivers or conditional lien waivers. You want unconditional, but most subcontractors are not going to sign an unconditional lien waiver until they've been paid. To be preventative, you can do a conditional lien waiver right on the front end as soon as you start the job, and it essentially says that as soon as you hand the guy a check, he triggers or he releases his right to be able to sue you or place a hold on your property. And lien waivers they're a valuable tool. A subcontractor should get paid. If he did the work, if he didn't screw it up, he should get paid. So a lien is a useful tool for them, but it also can really screw you up. So before you ever hand over a check to a subcontractor, they sign that lien waiver unconditional. You slide it across the table to them, they sign it, push it back over to you, you hand them a check. The next one I think is obvious, but maybe it's not because I've heard enough horror stories. The next one is never pay lump sums for labor that's not performed. It's so common that people get in trouble because, you know, they hand a contractor 20 grand to get started on something, and surprise, surprise, he never gets started. You never pay a lump sum for work that has not been performed. Now, if you're ordering material ahead of time, if your framer wants money to order the trusses because there's a 4-week lead time, that's something entirely different. But don't ever give a lump sum of money on work that has yet to be completed. The last two, and most critical in my opinion, is retainage. In this game of construction, leverage, 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 baby. Retainage is where you get the subcontractor. It goes back to scope of work. When you draft the scope of work in the payment terms, your subcontractor agrees to some level of retainage, and I don't particularly care if it's 5% or 10%. It only needs to be a small amount of money in my experience. There just has to be some level of retainage that you're holding on to that gives you teeth into the subcontractor. So let's say it's 10% retainage, and you want them to agree to 30 days. So you get to hold on to that retainage, that 10%, for the next 30 days. And the reason why you want it to be 30 days is when you do your inspections, you're most likely going to miss something. Everyone does. It's very common. I don't care how thorough you are. Everyone misses things. Guys that have been doing it for 30 years will miss things in a framing inspection. But by allowing yourself 30 days to hold on to that 10%, let's say it's even $2,500, that's still $2,500 that the subcontractor wants. Most likely it's his profit. And so he will be responsive to you when you find something and you shoot out a email and say, hey man, notice a couple more things, need you to take care of this, and then we're good. 30 days, that will give you the leverage, because in real estate development, in construction, in commercial construction, in an industry like commercial construction or real estate development, or anything that has the potential to be mildly adversarial, leverage always talks and BS walks. It's just the way it is. It's the way things are. So keep that leverage, hold that retainage, treat your subcontractors right. I've been burned by subcontractors, and I've had situations where I've burned subcontractors. And at the end of the day, if you have relationships where you're taking care of each other, it'll be a relationship where you can get long-term benefits from it. But don't assume that these guys are your friends, because they're not. I've broke bread with these guys. I've gone to their kids' birthday parties, but as soon as things get bad, as soon as the money gets tight, these guys don't care about you. So you treat it like a business relationship. It is a business relationship. If you are a current real estate investor and you're looking to make a transition and you think you can use help with anything that I've talked about in here, that's not a problem. I have a link that will take you to a video that explains how I think I could help you. We can jump on a call, see if there's a fit, and if not, I will tell you, because I only work with guys who I truly think I can help, and it takes a special breed. It takes a special breed of person to go from flipping houses to doing ground up development. I hope this video helps. Hope you got some value out of the content. If you did, subscribe, and I'll keep putting out content like this that will help you become a better ground up developer.